Hi friends, welcome to another episode of I Love Sonia G. If it's your first time here, I'm Alicia, a huge enjoyer of Sonia G brushes and Fude in general. Fude is Japanese for brush. I have quite a few Japanese made brushes in my collection, but today we are zeroing in on Sonia's holiday Sunset Cranes Maki-e brush set. This was released for holiday and was kindly gifted to me by Beautylish and Sonia. My shipment was in the second round, and because this is a limited collection, and my apologies, by the time this video uploads, it would have already been restocked. Crossing fingers if you had your eye on this set and are still able to get it. I understand how kind you are in wanting to wait for my review, but listen, I hope you get it before watching this video because it is exceptional. It's Sonia G, okay? This video will review the brush set, go through several B-roll demonstrations using each brush, and the details, of course, which will begin now. This brush is an exclusive set for holiday. There are no singles sold. It's just as a set, and that retails for $220, exclusively sold on Beautylish. If it's your first time encountering Japanese made brushes, you hear the price, you're like, oh my gosh, my heart just stopped. Japanese brushes are handmade by craftsmen in Kumano, Japan. That is the city that is known for their brush makers. It is a high-level artisanal skill that's been passed down generations to generations, and they use older traditions in their brush making, and that's what Sonia wanted to do for this holiday set in particular. We weren't just gonna have new bristles, we weren't gonna have new handle, she pulled out all the stops for this collection. And if you want to find out more, I would highly recommend that you check out her article on sweetmakeuptemptations.com, where she goes into the nitty-gritty about the process for each of her brush collections, for each of her brushes in general, and where she also does comparisons with other brushes. But what makes this holiday release highly unique is the fact that we have Blue Squirrel, we have the wavy silhouette brush handle, we have the Maki-e technique and the lacquering technique, which yields a totally different paint gradient look on the brush handle. Four elements that are, again, older traditions used in Japanese brush making, but all in this set. And excited to see that Sonia released an entire set using Blue Squirrel. There are Blue Squirrel brushes in her fundamental face set that released a few years back. Ever since then, she had a combination of undyed goat hair, dyed goat hair, the recently released Kiyaki Kakishibu set that is persimmon dyed goat bristles, and now we have an entire set showcasing Blue Squirrel. And if it's your first time hearing about Blue Squirrel, in terms of the bristle type and what to expect, it is a lot softer and delicate than goat. You're gonna get a lot more of a soft diffused finish from this bristle type, and because the bristles are more delicate, it is recommended that you only use this bristle type with powders, not with creams, not with liquids. So yes, the softness is a trade-off that you lose in versatility and that type of workhorse element that you might want in a brush that has goat hair or even horse hair or weasel hair. But if you have delicate skin on the eyes, if you just love a softer feeling brush that feels like silk on the skin, then Blue Squirrel is for you. In addition to the Blue Squirrel, we have custom made ferrules made out of brass, and you have a special curve in the one brush that I completely am in love with. And actually all these shapes are new to Sonia's collection, and she emphasized the fact that because this was a limited holiday release, she wanted to release shapes that complemented what you already might have or own from her collection. They're the in-between supplementary brushes, right? And I think that is hugely helpful, especially if you're like myself who has mostly all of Sonia G's brushes. These definitely find a place in my collection where they have a unique role, especially because they are made of Blue Squirrel and not goat hair, and that will lead me to reach for certain formulas over others. Paint job on these handles, forget it. Kiyaki wood is still used, and you have the wavy silhouette that we saw from the Kiyaki Kakishibu set, as well as the Traditions Eye set that released last year. The lacquering technique that is used to create this beautiful black to gray gradient, not quite the same as you find in her Pro series. You see a gentle highlight of red on the center of the curviest part of the handle, and then you have the Maki-e technique that paints these beautiful two tiny cranes on the base of the handle in front of the sunset. And these techniques require a high level of skill to achieve. It is a slow process, a delicate one, thus reflected in the price, right? You need someone to hand lacquer these handles in a way that will yield this unique effect with the paint, with how it's highlighted, and to have someone paint these. Look how tiny they are. You have the orange crane and the gold one with the sunset in front of this beautiful red to black gradient. It is just beautiful. You see the stars here by the crane's wing in front of the sun. I know it's a lot because the sun is hitting the handle, and you just see this beautiful shine. Just an exceptional piece of work. And I understand if the price tag is high. This is really for the person who loves to collect brushes, maybe not use them, but they just love owning something that is handmade, but a certain vision in mind. And with the brushes, you get this box, which is made out of, let me scroll down because Sonia also mentioned the type of wood made with the box. Paulownia? I'm gonna say Paulownia. Let me know down below if that's not right. You have her Sonia G logo at the top, and you could use this box to hold the brushes. Sonia did emphasize the fact that it's not the most sturdy. If you rather hold these brushes in glass or something else like a heavier plastic, you may. But if it's just the set, it fits in quite nicely. And I have B-roll showing the box unopened when I received the package that day with the elastic ribbon and the washi paper. Beautiful presentation with Japanese made materials. It screams Japan in terms of the box and the washi paper and the elastic ribbon, the brushes inside. It's just too much. I was thrilled when Sonia had created this holiday set in the way that she did, because it truly felt special. It truly felt like a limited edition release. And after this restock, that's it. If she decides to do Blue Squirrel again, it's going to be an entirely different set. I think an entirely different concept, perhaps. Who knows if she'll go into face brushes with Blue Squirrel. That will be outstanding, but also more expensive because more bristles. Yes, you guessed it. Now let's begin with the individual brushes. I'll go in the order that I applied my makeup. And of course, I had to start with the arched worker. I am an enjoyer of Sonia's worker concept in her brush collection. She has several worker brushes, and the jumbo blender I would consider to be in the worker category. It is a dense brush that is multitasking in its function. You could apply lid product with it, you could blend through the crease, you could tap color on the outer lid. Given my eye real estate, I understand that those are possibilities for me. But arched worker is special in the sense that we have a brush this size on the fluffier side, but with predictability and direction, is not completely flopped out. And that's something that I look for with Blue Squirrel that I think is unique, because you have the silkiness and the softness from the Blue Squirrel bristle, but you also have enough bristle in the actual brush to feel the product on your skin, to move the product with a little more intention. It's not just a soft brush that I do have in my collection with Blue Squirrel that are a lot softer and not as in your face when it comes to color placement. But I dipped into an older Dior palette. This was a limited release for one of their summer collections, and I purposely wanted to use a gel to powder formula because I thought the arch worker will work beautifully with this type of a texture, that it will leave behind a softer finish on the lid. And yes, because I have larger eyes, I do rely on the arched worker to place color on my lid as well as to blend it through my crease. And Sonia did mention she understands this is a rather large brush. If you have smaller eyes, you most certainly can use it as a diffuser, perhaps a finisher brush to blur the edges of shadow that come close or above your crease. Perhaps you use it to place color on the inner arc here where inner eye and nose meet. You could also use arch worker to place powder lightly here under the lash line, even to buff powder if you want it, or tap here on the cheekbones for highlight. So there are several tasks you could rely arch worker to cover. And the fact that it's Blue Squirrel is exceptional because now you have that softer laydown of color. I'm happy that we moved on from like, ooh, that's so pigmented era of YouTube or beauty YouTube in general, because sometimes more is not necessarily better when it comes to eyeshadow. And I think people are slowly realizing, or they have already realized, that a softer delivery of color on the eyes is a little more elegant, is a little more sophisticated, and the fact that you could get away with colors perhaps that you didn't think possible just because of that softer application. When everything is so pigmented and heavy duty and color in your face, that doesn't leave much room in terms of the finished product, in terms of the vibe the look can present. If it's softer overall, if the textures just allow the user to build intensity as they like, and the intensity is not there with the initial application, you have the opportunity now to turn the dial for intensity depending on how you wish your eyes to appear, and you have that control, especially with a bristle like Blue Squirrel. But now with the arched worker, with this density, you have even more opportunity to lay down product on your lid to then blend it through your crease. And again, depending on your eye shape and size, the arched worker might be your finisher, it might be your all over brush. For me, it is an all over brush, and you saw in the demo how it whipped my Dior shadow on my lid and crease with ease. But then I thought, let me hop into Mother's palette, specifically Divine Rose 1, and I went in with Velouria, and purposefully because Pat's Mattes pack a punch. And if they do for you as well, but you still love to use them, but you need a little less intensity, this is where Blue Squirrel comes in for you. And the arched worker, because of how many bristles it has in the brush, it's not going to just lay back and not blend. It's going to move that product well through your crease and lid, and that's what it does here. But it offers a softer delivery of color. It's not going to be the same if I went in with Fundamental Worker M or S that has dyed, or excuse me, undyed gold hair. That's going to pick up a lot more product, lay down a lot more. Sure, if you want that color intensity, then you use that brush. But if you like Velouria, but you just don't want so much punch, arched worker. I wouldn't use arched worker for placing color on my lower lash line. I will rely on Mini Builder for that, but we'll get to those demos when we get to Mini Builder, simply because I didn't want that much haze. But you most certainly can use arched worker for some lower lash line haze. The shadow will drop a little bit, but maybe not by much. So right now I have my Chanel shadows on that I used for my little reel that you'll see later on. I'll pick up the same color that I placed on the crease, and yes, it's going to drop a little bit, but it's just incredibly soft. And I think that is essential if you have sensitive eyes, that you want a brush that's going to have great pickup but is soft at the same time. Which, why not? Let's go into Mini Builder. And I love this brush because from the fundamental set, I believe Builder S, Builder Small, was the brush that used, let me double check. It was a mix between dyed and undyed gold hair. And in comparison to the Crane Mini Builder, you can see that there are similarities. But what I love about Mini Builder is like the same thing that I spoke about with Arched Worker, is that sure, it's a smaller brush, it has flexibility, but not too much, which means it's going to be a great pickup brush for your lid. And especially if you like to wear lighter shimmers, metallics on the center of your mobile lid to create that spotlight effect, Mini Builder will pick up the right amount of product. And yes, demo 1, I used Dior Compact that I showed with Arched Worker, how it placed that beigey pinky color on the center of my lid. And I'm sure you've already assumed that it will be great for inner corner as well, but Sonia does have the soft pencil for inner corner precision as well as lash line precision. I would argue still Mini Builder, great for inner corner, but I love it especially for lid placement and highlight. Now, because it is a smaller brush, it's not going to be like your Builder that you see from her fundamental set or even her original fundamental set. Builder Pro has a similar shape, but it's larger. I love Mini Builder just because of its versatility in that you can place that color right on the center of the lid, but because of the flexible tip, I liked it here when I went back into Divine Rose 1 to place that burgundy color on the outer lid. And You know that I love me a builder or a packer brush to place color on my outer lid for intensity, but the fact that I have nice flexibility through the bristles to carry that color through my crease and to still blend it was a win for me, and the reason why I would use this brush for that specific task. I also like to use Mini Builder for applying color along my lower lash line in a more precise fashion. I could go in with Arched Worker, again depending on the color and on the finish. If I wanted to look blown out or a little more hazy there, if I wanted the color to stay tighter to my lash line, Mini Builder for sure. And sometimes I like a more tighter application of color, the emphasis to be on the lid and the crease and not so much on the lower lash line. It depends what mood I'm in. But we go into what I think is an exceptional brush, and what Sonia has truly mastered in terms of this smudger category is the flat smudger. And I say master because I have a lot of smudger brushes, but Sonia has managed to create a smudger type, and this is what we've seen also from her Kiyaki Kakishibu set, that you have the flat edge but a thickness at the base, and I think that is hugely unique to this brush type, and Sonia nailed it again in her Sunset Crane set. It's a little thicker, I think she writes, than the Kiyaki version, but what's great about it is that it is just criminally soft. If you have sensitive eyes, okay, and a lot of the smudger brushes you've used in the past were too scratchy, and I know this is sold as a set, I know. If you were contemplating it, but you still needed that brush to place color precisely along your lash line or to stamp it on the lower lash line, my goodness. The flat smudger, you can't get softer than this. You cannot get softer than this type of brush that will not irritate your eyes. And I understand everyone's different, okay? I think it will have less of a risk of irritating your eyes here, especially on the lower lash line and on the inner corner. It is unbelievably silky and soft on the skin. However, because of the brush's density at the base, phenomenal pickup. And you saw in the demo, I used this brush to place highlight on the Dior eye as well as on the Divine Rose eye. And because of the width, that color gets on fast. You just stamp it on the inner part of your eye, not only on the inner corner, but you also can place an entirely different shade on the inner arc of your eye. Color on the lash line for that smudgy udgy. Now, as I said in the beginning, limitations with Blue Squirrel is that you could mainly just use it with powders. I wouldn't use this to blend out a pencil. The bristles are far too delicate for that type of a product. I would go with the Kiyaki set that is, yes, dyed with persimmon, but more resilient against Mother's Black Coffee Permagel liner or other cold type liners that you like to smudge and blend. Not great with the Mini Smudger. Let's use Mini Smudger with the darker colored powder shadows that you like to place on your lash in a diffused fashion that looks soft, but you still have a little bit of intensity there. It doesn't look in your face. It just looks like hazy, but you still have that color. It's amazing. I love the flat smudger. And last but not least, ooh, soft pencil. This is Sonia's smallest pencil brush out of her entire collection, smaller than, I believe, Pencil S from her Fundamental set. Yes, Pencil S. Pencil S is a little thicker, is going to give you a lot more precision along the lash line, a lot more moving and grooving, and because it is undyed goat hair, you can use this to smudge pencils. Not so much with soft pencil, however. Sonia wrote on her blog that this was the pencil that brought her into inner corner highlight supremacy, that she created a pencil for herself where now it is virtually effortless to place highlight in the inner corner in a way that's like a pinpoint type of an application. I mean, just where you need it. Just where you need it. And although it's soft, it's not so soft that there's no color placement. There's no pickup. It's soft, but it has a little bit of pushback to it, which is fantastic. And I think especially helpful if you need that calligraphy type of feel from your pencil brush that you like a round ferrule, you're not one to use a smudge type of brushes or the flat edge brush or even a shorter stubbier pencil brush, you need something just with like a longer feel to it. And this is what soft pencil does. And I hope you can recognize that, because I then dipped into Chanel's palette to place a darker color on my Pat McGrath eye. And soft pencil, my goodness, it just flows. It slides along the lash line in a precise fashion where if you feel uncomfortable placing shadow on your lash line because it always comes out uneven or what, no. It feels like I'm using a liquid liner, but in a brush form. That's exactly what it feels like. The bristles remain uniform, they don't separate, and the color is even from the moment you bring that brush in contact with your skin. You could use it with any color you like, but what's left behind is, yes, that liner on the lash, but it's just a lot softer. It's a lot softer, and I think it's great for those who want that intensity, but feel intimidated because they're unsuccessful in placing color on their lash line. But the way I can move the tip of the brush back and forth and still have that precise color placement is exceptional, and soft pencil achieves just that. It's fantastic to have a pencil brush in this size that still has pickup, that still has beautiful color placement, but it's soft and it would just guide your application. I mean, you just let it do its thing. And that is the final brush from the Sunset Crane Maki-e set. If you already have this and you've been using them to death, you're like, I know. You don't have to tell me. If you're waiting for this video and you want to buy them, fantastic. My links are affiliated. I thank you in advance. Everyone's number one question is, do I need this, Alicia? That's a question you have to answer. If you have a lot of Sonia's brushes, I'm sure you are perfectly happy. If you are, however, in pursuit, specifically for Blue Squirrel, if you want a more edited eye set, if you have smaller eyes and you felt that there was just a lot going on in the Fude space, you didn't know what to choose, this set is curated for you. For sure, in terms of the shapes included, and I think a wide variety of eye shapes and sizes can benefit from this brush set. For sure. If you feel that your eyes are too small for the arch worker, I think you just have to change the role for arch worker for your eye shape. It's not going to be a crease applicator. It's going to be your finisher, your highlight brush, your under eye powdering brush, your down the nose contour brush or under the lip contour brush. However, whatever other task you can match up with the arched worker, you most certainly can. And the other brushes I feel can create beautiful eye looks, right? Mini Builder will place that color on the lid, on the inner corner, and you can also carry color through your crease because the brush is still flexible enough to blend in that part of your eye. And if you have small hooded eyes, Mini Builder is going to fit right into that crease and blend the color well. Flat smudger, lash line work, inner corner work, or even more precise mobile lid application. Soft pencil, again, for those same intensity lash application for the shadow, lower lash line, inner corner. If you felt there needed to be a brush between arched worker and Mini Builder, I get it, but also keep in mind that Sonia has a brush in her collection that fulfills that role. And if you don't have that brush, maybe get it as a single, right? And what comes to mind, for instance, her most recent Kakishibu set, T3 is goated because not only can you use this brush for outer lid placement, but you could also use the flat side to apply color. So if you wanted, and T3 is sold as single, by the way, you could buy this brush and that's going to be the missing link between the Crane set, right? If you needed a brush to sit between arched worker and Mini Builder, this will be the one. My second recommendation will probably be my favorite, my personal favorite is T5. T5 is the true all-over workhorse brush. It's gonna do everything Arched Worker can, but in a more precise fashion. Outer lid placement, crease blend, lower lash line application, lid application, you know what I'm saying? If you wanted to go into her fundamental set, her smaller worker brushes, I feel would fit well in between. Or if you wanted to go into her eye fusion set, and because you feel you don't just want to use liquids and creams, I would say Fusion Worker will be fantastic for that in-between spot. Because now Fusion Worker is the worker concept from Sonia G. It does everything. But now you could use this with creams and or liquids as well as powders. You could use this to apply your Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize, your Danessa Myrick color fixes, what else? What's like a liquid shadow I like to use all the time? All the pot types of shadows, Sonia G Worker, and then you use the Blue Squirrel for your powder application, right? That's one way you could go. If you wanted to pull from the fundamental set, let's see here. I'm thinking, listen, I am partial to the Jumbo Blender. It's not from her fundamental set. It is from her Sky Eye set, but that would be great as the in-between, right? Because now you got a brush that does everything, basically what the Arched Worker does, but it's much smaller. And again, if you have the smaller eyes and you still needed an all-over brush but still something bigger than Mini Builder, then that would be my recommendation. Or one more, let's do one more. Worker S from her fundamental set will be the one, I think, because again, can do everything the Arched Worker can, but will be a lot smaller. Outer lid placement, even lower lash line, and then you could get into Mini Builder for more precise mobile lid work, Smudger for inner corner, soft pencil for the lash line. Yes, I know they don't match, but who cares? This was just a suggestion because I realized and try to anticipate people's concerns when it comes to collections and missing links and all that stuff. But keep in mind that this holiday collection was created through Sonia's lens, and she didn't want to make a repeat type of a shape just because it would have been like the middle brush. I'm sure she's thought of that. I'm happy she just went with Arched Worker and Mini Builder because we don't have those shapes in her collections. If you're like myself and have Sonia's brushes, then those suggestions I think will be phenomenal to fulfill that role, that fifth brush role that you feel might be missing from the Crane set. And you could just have 5 brushes to take along for the ride. That makes it easy for you if you're packing up, because I know how it could be a little stressful, you know, when it's like, which brush should I bring? Which eyeshadow should I bring? If you just bring those, you'll be fine. So that is it, family. Let me know if you got your hands on the Sunset Crane set, what you think about it. If you're still thinking about it, I will see you down in those comments. And until then, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up or maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you on here again with another review tutorial, Sonia G brush extravaganza, or get ready with me using her brushes with another eyeshadow palette. Take care, and I will see you again soon.